Story in the league. The Las Vegas Journal-Review is reporting that Matthew Stafford's camp and the Las Vegas Raiders have found common ground on what a potential contract in Vegas could look like. The question is, will the Raiders and Rams make a trade, or will Stafford elect to stay in L.A.? He wants more money from the Rams, who gave him permission to speak to other teams. So I've got a lot of ears and eyes and everything else on the ground in Indy this morning. I got Louis Riddick, I got Mike Tannenbaum, and I start with you, Dan Graziano. What are you hearing on this with Stafford?
Yeah, look, I mean, the Las Vegas Journal-Review, certainly accurate, but I would add that Matthew Stafford also knows what a contract with the New York Giants would look like at this point. He's had permission to talk to teams for a couple of weeks, and I think everything's on the table. Matthew Stafford and the Rams are at an impasse in terms of the contract negotiations. I think he is probably still hoping that they move a little bit in his direction and he ends up being able to stay there. But I think if the Rams don't, then I think he has to consider, Matthew Stafford, which offer, whether it's the Raiders, whether it's the Giants, that he would rather have. And at that point, the Rams will certainly work out a trade with whichever team that turns out to be. Greeny, I continue to think a resolution on this has to happen very soon, like within the next day or so, because all of these teams, all three of these teams, and anybody else who might have been involved in this, needs to know whether they need to move on to Plan B.
Day or so is right up my alley. So we've got the urgency that we're looking for. And Mike T, you were telling me this morning in our meeting that if you're the Rams, there's another conversation that you are having at the exact same time to make sure you got your bases covered.
Yeah, if I'm the Rams, I'm hitting pause talking to the Raiders or the Giants, and I'm talking to Aaron Rodgers, and here's why. We have a great young team. We have a lot of really good young defensive players. We need a quarterback we can win right now with. And when you look at the comparison of how they actually played last year, it's actually a lot closer than you think, Grady. When you look at this graphic, now look, Aaron Rodgers is 4 years older as of opening day, so that's a concern right there. But actually how they played was closer than I think people think. This is absolutely the calculation the Rams have to consider in terms of who's playing quarterback for us. So before I speak to the Raiders, before I speak to the Giants, I got to make sure that I'm on the same page with Aaron Rodgers so I know who my opening day quarterback is. I may still draft one, but in a win-now mode, I either need Stafford or Aaron Rodgers if I am the L.A. Rams.
All right, you had me at Aaron Rodgers. So, Louis Riddick, you sit back, you digest all of this. Where do you stand on this enormous story that is at its inflection point?
Yeah, I'm shocked. I'm totally shocked. And look, if I'm the Rams, I'm trying desperately to try and patch this thing up and make sure that Matthew Stafford understands just how important he has been to us in the recent past and how important he is to us in the not too distant future. Maybe looking 2 to 3 years out here. Look, I've never heard a coach other than maybe Jim Harbaugh, when he is talking about his quarterbacks, when he's talking about Justin Herbert in particular, talk about a quarterback the way Sean McVay talks about Matthew Stafford in terms of his mental horsepower, his physical skills, and his ability to uplift everyone else around him. Look, Matthew Stafford, by the time his career is over the next 2 or 3 years, he's going to be top 4 or 5 in career passing yards in the history of the game in career passing touchdowns. This guy, to me, is in the Hall of Fame discussion. To me, he's a surefire Hall of Famer right now. And if I'm projecting 2 to 3 years out right now, if I'm him, I want to stay in L.A. And if I'm L.A., I desperately want to keep him there. Do we remember some of the throws that he made last year? There's really been no slippage in my estimation in terms of the way this guy plays. And look, I've been one of the people who said if this doesn't work out, that Aaron Rodgers really should look for a place like Los Angeles. And Los Angeles should, because that's exactly what he needs at this point in time. He needs a coach like Sean McVay. But if I'm the Rams right now, I'm just no way letting this get to this point, and I'm letting him get out the door. And if I'm Matthew Stafford, I want to stay in L.A. But, we know how these kind of things go. They get very personal, and people get offended. And next thing you know, you have blockbuster trades.
Go ahead, Mike.
Greeny, I agree with what Lewis is saying, but there's another really interesting aspect to it. If I'm Les Snead and Sean McVay of the Rams, I'm calling up Matthew Stafford and saying, hey, we have a good thing going here. You've made, according to our research, $364 million in your career. And whatever more Vegas or the Giants are offering after taxes, is it really worth leaving us? Last year, we protected you at the 6th best rate in the NFL. And as Coach Parcells would say, quarterbacks are put on this planet with only so many hits in their body. And I've been around aging quarterbacks from Brett Favre to Vinny Testaverde. they don't like to get hit. So, Matthew, I know there's more money out there, but really, after taxes, what is that going to change in your life? We're going to protect you really well, and we have a meaningful chance to win. We were 20 yards away from being the Eagles last year.
That's the other part of it for me, Lewis. Is if I'm the Rams, I'm basically saying to Matt Stafford, do you really want to finish your career on these teams that are clearly not, look, say what you will, the Giants and the Raiders are not championship caliber teams. They're not particularly close. The Rams are. That's a bluff I could see them considering calling, Lewis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know what, in Grady, I wouldn't even really characterize it as a bluff. I mean, that's just the facts. And I think Matthew understands that, too. I think he knows as well his best option, the best place for him to win and continue to build his legacy and kind of put a period on his Hall of Fame resume is in Los Angeles. But like I said, we know how these things get very personal. This guy feels as though he deserves more, and I understand that. I get that. But you're right on the Rams. The Rams are the best place for him to be. I'm just hoping that it all comes together, that he stays there. I would not want to see him change teams at this point in his career. I just think it would end bad for him, quite honestly.
Graz, super quick final word. Graz, go.
Yeah, I think that's what has to happen. The next thing that has to happen, and I think it will here in the coming days, Matthew Stafford and the Rams need to get together one final time and see if they can find some common ground. And if they can't, then I think they need to start talking about what trade compensation is and whether Aaron Rodgers or somebody else is the Rams' fallback option.
It is remarkable that we have gotten here, and we'll see if we get all the way by the end of the day.
Dapper is always tan and ready to work. Travis Hunterfield saying yesterday it's, quote, super important for him to be the first overall pick in this draft. What are teams saying, though, about where he'll wind up?
Yeah, Randy, so far this week I've had a hard time finding anybody that does not have Travis Hunter as one of the two best prospects in this entire class. He or Abdul Carter has received every vote for the best player amongst people that I have spoken to, which leads many people to believe that the range for Travis Hunter is as high as first overall to the Tennessee Titans and as low as number 4 overall to the New England Patriots. The way in which you would get to number 4 would be both the Browns and the Giants at 2 and 3 respectively, taking a quarterback 2nd and 3rd. Now, that being said, Travis Hunter, the other most important part of this debate is where is he going to play? You know, a lot of people have opined in terms of which side of the ball they believe he is best, Randy. I have not yet found somebody who has said, unequivocally, if we draft this kid, or if we were able to draft this kid, we would shut down one side of the ball and only play him on offense or defense. Still a lot of people with eyes wide open to the possibility of him playing at least a part-time role on both offense and defense.
He certainly seems up to it as well. Meanwhile, defensive linemen and linebackers worked out yesterday. Defensive backs and tight ends are set to take the field today. Which players are generating the most buzz?
Yeah, yesterday, Texas A&M defensive end Shamar Stewart proved that he and I have absolutely nothing in common as he measured in at 264 pounds. He ran a 4.60 40, had a 40-inch vertical jump and a nearly 11-foot broad jump. Now, this is an interesting prospect. I continue to call him the most fascinating player in the draft. He had 4.5 sacks in his entire 3-year career. Texas A&M, 1.5 each season. That being said, 264 pounds with that kind of athletic upside is hard to find. Max Harrison from Kentucky, one of my favorite players in the class, is going to run today. This kid is going to fly. 2 seasons ago, he led the SEC in interceptions. This past year, missed some time due to a shoulder injury. The possibility of him running 4.3 or even faster is very much in the cards today. I think he has a chance to move himself into that first round. Very explosive and outstanding ball skills as a corner. I cannot wait to watch him run a little bit later on here.